This is me, the Untitled Viking, and this game is called Four Treasures. Okay, Four Treasures is a game for 2 to 4 people, in which those 2 to 4 people are going to take control of an adventurer, and that adventurer is going to start digging into like basically a mountain. And as they dig through the dungeon, they're going to find different treasures and traps and monsters. And the whole purpose of the game is that you're trying to get, well, treasure. You're trying to get the most treasure, and it isn't so much that you have to get the treasure. You have to take that treasure and you need to turn it into coins. You'll find like different shops and stuff as you dig through the mountain that has all this treasure. And the big like grail thing that you're shooting for is there's this giant like diamond or crystal. They call it a crystal, but anyway, but regardless, so there's this giant crystal in the middle, and if you can get that, that's going to be worth a ton of points because it's a big giant treasure, right? But like as you kill monsters, you're going to be able to like take those monsters and you'll be able to turn those in for coins as well, and so on and so forth. And the whole thing is that you're trying to stop the other players in some way from like getting ahead of you as far as with the riches and the coins that you're collecting yourself. And it is a very challenging, it is a very fun game, and as you can probably guess by the art on the game box, it is also kind of a light-hearted fantasy game. And I like light-hearted. I mean, it seems to me like lately there's a lot of like, grim and perilous and just, isn't this dark and sinister type like fantasy based games, but like the fact that like this one is a little more I don't want to say kid-friendly, because it isn't exactly a kid's game, and not at all, really. I mean, it's one of those things where there's a lot of tactical and strategical choices that you're going to be making as you play the game, but it is a more family-friendly type of atmosphere as far as the game is concerned. Even though you are going to be working against the other players and trying to prevent them from doing things, while you yourself are trying to do your best possible job at spelunking and taking the treasure yourself. So let me show you how this game is played, then we'll come back here and I'll give you my final thoughts. Alright, so this is Four Treasures. I'm going to take you through the rules of the game and show you how the game is played. Now, before we dive into that, I just want to tell you what you are looking at as far as the game board and the pieces and whatever. Alright, so obviously the game board's in the middle. This is the area where all the players are going to be diving into the dungeon and trying to spelunk it and trying to like basically create passages using these tiles over here, which I'll show you and talk about more here in just a little bit, that will hopefully, and I should mention, each player will start in one of these 4 corners on the, that you'll find on the board. And what you're going to be doing is you're trying to tunnel in to get deeper and deeper into the dungeon, because the deeper you go into the dungeon, like the better of the cards you can draw, which once again I'll talk about here in just a little bit. And you're able to do more as far as, finding better monsters, better traps to set up, to use against your opponents, but also trying to get to this center spot right here, which is where that massive crystal is. I think they say crystal in the rules, but I think it should be like a massive diamond or something, or maybe it's just a giant magical crystal. Regardless, it really doesn't matter. That's one of the ways the game can end. If somebody claims that, then the game is over, and what will happen is that everybody will total up the amount of money they were able to collect as the game progressed, and whoever has the most wins, and this giant crystal in the middle is worth an extra bonus of 15. There is another way you can win if like nobody manages to get there. If anybody at any point ever has 30 coins on them, like so, they'll be able to, then that will also end the game as well at that point. This isn't also a game where like everybody gets one more turn, collect as many points as you can. No, it's like it's done as soon as that progress has come to an end. All right, so each player will get a character. The characters, as you can see here, this is I took out the dwarf here, but just so you can see other character boards up front. And it is kind of cool that the characters themselves have like different starting abilities, and they have different like special cards that they get to hold on to. Okay, which I'll talk about the cards here in just a little bit. But like just looking like here you have the classic thief character, and you can see like he has low strength but high dexterity, a little faster speed than the dwarf down here. The dwarf dwarf, obviously, as you probably guessed, has a higher strength, low dex, and he's kind of slow as well. Here we have the ranger. She has she's kind of middle of the board all the way across as far as those go. And then we have the barbarian. As you can probably guess, barbarian has the best strength, still low dexterity, and he's preponderously slow. Now, each of these different characters gets some special cards that they're going to be able to use as they play the game. The thief character gets some dagger cards. The dagger cards can be used obviously as weapons, but more importantly, the dagger cards can be used against other players to basically stick them up, to steal their treasures from them, but you don't get to pick the treasure you take. You have to randomly pick the treasure from their hand. The barbarian, because he is so preponderously slow, he gets these boots. The boots give him extra speed if he wants to play them, so he can move further in his turn. And probably the funniest of the special abilities, well, I should mention the dwarf gets these bombs. The bombs are pretty cool because you can use them to blow up passageways that will prevent other players from getting through, which is kind of a neat ability. The other cool thing here is that the ranger has these unicorns, and then you can use these unicorns to attack the other players and actually take their improvements from them, which, you might be saying, what's an improvement? Well, I'll get to that in just a little bit. I mean, this is a game where you're going to be leveling up your character as you go along, and you do that by defeating monsters or traps and things like that as the game progresses. But, probably one of the most important things is that you're going to be shooting for more treasures, because there's these treasure cards here. These treasures themselves are going to have certain things that are just going to be exactly it's a dynamite, so it's something that'll blow up a passageway, if you will. Sometimes they will just be nothing. You'll get a card that's just trash, and it's not anything at all. But sometimes you'll find magic items, you'll find these boots of +5 movement, or let me find a little here you'll find just it's here's a necklace and it's going to be worth 5 points. And see, the number up in the top right there tells you what they are worth. And there are places on the board, when you'll see these as I show you the tiles, where you'll be able to stop and sell these things to shops. Also, and even though I'm kind of jumping ahead here a little bit, also you have, when you fight monsters, the monsters themselves have a value right there. And you can see it's this, so if you can turn the monster in for basically a bounty, I'm assuming, oh, you killed the monster. That's great. So here's some money for taking care of that creature. And then, but if you notice on the bottom there, you'll see the speed for the wolf says +1. That's what I mean by an improvement. You could use the monsters you defeat for the gold, the ransom or whatever that you're turning him in for, or you can use it to improve your character. So that's kind of I like that ability in this game, deciding, it's do I want the money, which is basically what I need to win the game, or do I want, to improve my character? So you might have noticed that there are 3 different decks of monster cards. There's a level 1 deck, a level 2 deck, and a level 3 deck. As you are going through the dungeon, you'll get to draw from that at the end of your turn. I'm kind of jumping ahead to the process of the turn, so just hang with me. I will actually describe the entire process of the turn here in just a brief moment. But if your character is in this area, it is the level 1 area. If your character is in this area, it is the level 2 area. And if you're in this spot, you're in the level 3 area. So the level 3 area monsters, I'm just going to show you a couple. Here is the Hydra. Oh, and I should mention that this number here in the top left where it says 10, that is the strength of the attack that you have to defeat. And everything, if you're trying to defeat a monster or a trap, traps you need dexterity to get past, monsters you need strength to get past, and you can find weapons and things like that in the treasure deck that will assist you if you want to use those weapons when you fight. But when you fight monsters, you have to roll higher with the number than this. So you're gonna get the classic, D6. You're gonna roll that. Ooh, a 6. You'd add that to your strength. So, and then if that total is more than the strength of the creature you're fighting, then you would defeat it. And then, so you can see here the Hydra, though, it has a +2 to both the dex and a speed. So if I, just for example, if I defeated that and I had gotten that and I used it as an improvement, and obviously you can see it you know, kind of tells you to put it like that, then I would actually then physically say, oh, well, I'm going to get +2 speed, and so you'd add that to +2 speed, and then you'd add like +2 to dex. Now, if for some reason you lose that and it's discarded, then you would immediately lose those things, and that's why, you know, like you keep them on your player board. So when you lose that, you actually say, okay, I'm going to lose those particular bonuses that those have. Now, a couple other things about the monster deck here that I'm talking about. If you ever like monsters are going to get killed and discarded, and they're going to be in players' hands and on players' boards. If you ever run out of the monsters for that particular level, you don't reshuffle the discards. It's considered that like all the monsters of that level of the dungeon have been killed, and so it's been cleaned out. You know, what a novel concept, right? You know, the monsters just don't constantly regenerate and recreate themselves. So just keep that in mind as far as that is concerned. Obviously, just talking about the players thing. Obviously, you see you have the defeated monsters deck. The treasures deck, and the monster deck. So these are the ones that are like discarded, and those are the ones that you're going to be holding on to. And those are just kind of just so you can separate them and keep them set aside. Notice that like your cards that you have are completely your information. You don't have to share that with anybody. As you know, the only things that players can tell that you have is that if you actually have those cards of those types, and they can see the stats that your particular character has at that moment. All right, so the only other thing I want to talk about quickly is the events, and this is once again something that you're going to see with the tiles. But as your character runs over event spots on the board, you will draw cards from the event deck. And mind you, this is a prototype, so you'll notice that, like, obviously this card is only written in the English, but they have spaces for other languages as well. And you can see here it's like the ground turned into a drift sand. During the next turn, all players have 2 less speed points. So, you know, it's just one of those things where, and there's not just stuff like that. Let me just grab another one here. All players beginning from the active one and further clockwise take 1 card from the treasure deck. You know, so it's just stuff like that just, you know, kind of mix up the game and change it up. Some things are good, some things are bad, and you'll go through it. Oh, and there's one other thing, and I kind of cheated a little bit because I put this on the bottom. There are these mimics that you're gonna run into in the dungeon as well. So like you're gonna think, oh, I found a treasure, because there's a treasure chest spot on the board. You're like, oh, I found a treasure. You'll turn it over, and then all of a sudden, oh no, it's a mimic, and I have to fight this mimic. And what you're trying to do then is you're going to attempt to defeat it, and notice it has a strength of 9. Notice all those minuses, those bad minuses on the bottom that you don't want. But the cool thing is that if you defeat the mimic, you do get 3 treasures when you do that. So just so you know, I mean, like you're thinking, oh, cool, treasures. There are bad things that can happen to you as you're diving into there. All right. Oh, and one last thing. As you're moving your character, and I'll show you how you move your character and everything here in just a second. As you are moving your character through the dungeon, there are some specific rules as far as where you can place tiles and so on and so forth. However, there is no like line of sight situation as you're playing. Like it isn't like, oh, you can't see my character from here. You can't play that card. No, this is both a game where you're moving somebody on the board and you're positioning them, and like you will like be able to place different tiles to mess up other people's plans and things like that. But there isn't ever like a situation where it's kind of abstract in a way, if you will. You know, like it isn't like a like draw line of sight from this point to this point. Can I actually do that type of thing? Just, you know, and that was something, because I come from kind of a war game / miniatures game / you know, D&D background. I had to kind of get over that little, like, because that little part of my lizard brain was saying, no, that doesn't make sense. So anyway, all right, so let's actually show you what happens on a turn then. Okay, so with the magic of video editing, now we are back, and we actually have 2 players set up. Now, normally I've played this game mostly with 4 players, and I have found that with 4 players, it really does make a lot of fun to like see just how everybody's tunnel is made. But my daughter and I did play this 2 players a few times, and as long as we made sure that we started on the same side, like it was fun, because then we were able to get close to each other and you know, like kind of use each other's tunnels and whatever, and use each other's things that they put down. At the beginning of the game, you are told to put down one of the tiles that you have. Now, you do start with a set of tiles. You get a 5-spot tile, you get 2 4-spot tiles, and then like a 3-spot tile and a 2-spot tile.
I'll go through the tiles in just a second, but each of these tiles has a number on the back denoting like how many spaces. Like this is my 5-space tile. On your turn, one of the actions you have is placing another tile on the board. Tiles can, there's a couple of rules that are based around tiles. One, you can place them anywhere. So you can place them on other players in other players' ways, and add to their tunnels if you want to. That is a completely valid thing that you can do. Usually you do that as they're getting close to the middle, and you want to actually like give them a tile that kind of turns them away from the crystal. So like if somebody's like getting really close, they're like, and you're sure they have a tile that's going to allow them to match up, you kind of like place a tile down. So like if somebody was like, let's just say they were here, and I'm going to place this correctly, like you'd place that there. So it was like something, or actually probably even better. No, that would actually stink because that would get them closer. But hold on, I'll find one that works really good. Like if you did something like that, where it's like it just directs them away from the center, so they wouldn't be able to. One of the rules about tile placement is you can't place a tile like more than one tile away from a tile that has a hero on it. So, for example, if we had a situation like this, and this hero was there, and I thought that, oh my gosh, he's going to be able to get over there, I couldn't place this tile on that spot because of the fact that that would be more than one space away, meaning that I'd have to attach it to this one if I wanted to mess with him in some way. So just keep that in mind. The other thing is that you must abide by the doorways that are on each of these tiles. And I'll talk more about the iconography you're going to see in these tiles here. But you can see that you see those like wooden doorways on the sides. Those have to match up with other doorways. They can't ever match up with a hallway. So, for example, I'll just like place this one down here, and you can't ever cover up this spot, just so you know. So like this would be completely valid, like because of the fact that this doorway and this doorway match up, and then this doorway and this doorway match up. That would work. However, I'm just going to kind of cheat and just move this slightly that way. This would not be valid, because while this doorway and this doorway match up, this doorway right here attaching to the crystal does not match up with that tile. So you couldn't place that particular tile in that spot. Just so you know, like on the sides of the board, if you ever are placing tiles near the sides of the board, you can place doors right up against the side of the board. But that's the only time that doors don't have to be attached to other doors. So just keep that in mind. All right, so those are the two rules about placing tiles, and just keep those in mind as you are playing so you can know. Now, there's a few things that you might have seen on these tiles. I'm just going to tell you. So, like, you'll see that there's like a treasure chest right there. If your character stops on a treasure chest on their turn, you will roll this die. This die has 1, 2, or 3 treasure chests on each side. You roll the die, and then you would get to draw that many treasure cards from that. So that would be 1. If I didn't roll horribly, let's see if I can roll better. 1. Let's see if I can roll better. 2. Yeah, you can do 2. But there is a 3 spot on there as well, where you get to draw that many treasures from the deck to you'll claim those particular treasures. And I talked about the treasure cards, and maybe I'll show a few more of those here in just a little bit, but that's how that works. Now, some of these tiles will have, and I think, oh, they're perfectly, they have this event, which is right there. If you walk over an event, you don't have to stop on it, then you draw a card from the event deck. It's simple as that. You just pick it up, and then you do what the card tells you to do. The last thing that I wanted to show you was you'll see that there are these like red sacks of coins that are right there. Those are shops. If you stop at a shop, that's when you are able to turn your treasures into cold hard currency and also turn monsters in at the same time. So that's how those work. So, all right. So on your turn, what's going to happen is you're going to decide, you know, like there's 3 different parts of each of your turns. Oh, and Fred might mention one other thing. If you want, on your turn, like if you're like, oh, I don't like any of the tiles that I have, you are allowed to take tiles from over there. You can say, oh, I really want this 3-spot tile. Use your Tetris ability to figure out which one you want, right? Like let's say this one works perfectly. You draw that one, and you say you really want to use this tile, and hopefully, like, it'll match up. Now, if the tile doesn't work for you in some way, like if the doors are in the right spot or whatever, or maybe you picked the wrong tile, you can't put it back. You leave it with the rest of your tiles. Now you're saying, well, why even bother? You know, who cares, right? Just why even have a hand of tiles? The reason why you had to have a hand of tiles is because these are negative points. At the end of the game, every tile that you still have, you'll lose points by this. So this would be worth -4 points. So you can grab whatever tiles you want, and there are some events and different other things that'll make you draw tiles as well. So just keep that in mind. So one of the things you're going to be trying to do is you're going to be trying to get rid of the tiles in your hand as you play the game. Keep that in mind. I've had a few people forget that rule, and they're like, oh no, I've got like 7 tiles, and the game's going to be over. I'm going to have like -1 billion points. So just keep that in mind as you're playing. All right, so your turn, as I said, comprises of 3 different phases. So what you're going to have, like to begin with, the first part of the first of your turn, and I should mention that at the very beginning of your turn, you're not going to have any monster cards in your hand because basically the first turn of the game, everybody's got to play nice a little bit. But after the first turn, like you'll have monster cards because getting monster cards in your hand is what happens at the end of your turn. So the very first thing on your turn is you're going to do your hero phase, and that is you can use any of your special abilities. As I said, like the dwarf has bombs, and this is where, like as I was talking about how that no line of sight thing comes into mind. So like if you decide, hey, I'm gonna use a bomb to blow up this doorway or whatever. So I'm gonna do it over here just so you can kind of see it better. So like, let's say these two are attached, and for whatever reason I played one of my bomb cards and I wanted to blow that up. What you can do is then you just place one of these tiles like right there to show that that has collapsed and there's nothing you can see and they can't get through that. Now, if somebody has some dynamite, they can blow up the blockage, and then you turn it over, and it's kind of cool. Like the backside of it actually shows like a pathway that goes through. I dug that. I thought that was kind of neat that they made that, and it adds to the verisimilitude, if you will, of the dungeon as you're playing. So that is the first thing you're doing as far as the hero phase, like as far as you want to use one of your special powers. Now, obviously those are finite, like I only have 3 of those bombs, so you got to pick and choose your moments when you're going to want to do that. All right, after you do the hero phase, then you're going to do the card phase. And this is when you can use cards in your hand, and you're not going to be able to do it in your first turn of the game because you're not going to have any monsters in your hand or traps or whatever. But this is where you're either going to use those cards to place traps or monsters in front of other players. And I'll show you that in just a second after I draw some monster cards when I show the very end of the turn. So that is like the second part. Now the last part is the dungeon phase. This is where you you make an action on the game board. The dungeon phase, you're either going to move or you're going to place a tile. Those are your 2 different options that you can do. If you decide to move, like I'm going to move my dwarf, you just count the spaces. You go 1, 2, and I'm going to say, you know what, I'm not going to go. Even though I have a speed of 3, I'm going to stop there because I want to draw a treasure. So let's just go ahead and just go through. So then that would be done. I'm going to roll. Yay, I got 1 again. I waste all my luck when I rolled that 6 at the beginning. All right, so then here, and so I got a rope. Now, like you're saying, so the rope is just an item, and you can see it's worth 1 coin if I decide to sell it, but rope actually has the power of, you can use it to evade traps. And so you can take this, and you just go ahead and place that down there, or you can keep it in your hand, but it works better if you just place it down there. And you just keep that in the back of your head. That's what I have, because later on, like certain abilities, people are going to be able to steal things. So like I'm going to steal a treasure from you, so you have to actually fan out your treasure cards and show them. So you don't want to combine your monsters and your treasures together. If I wanted to place a tile, it would just be like anything else, where I would just take my tile and I would make sure everything matches up, and I would place it down like so. Now, at the end of my turn, what I would do is I'm just going to go ahead, and like I said, I could have placed one over with the other player if I wanted to, but it doesn't really make much sense right now. Now I'm going to fill my hand with the monster cards. Now, depending upon the level that I'm in, it is dependent upon where my character is. It has nothing to do with what the tile is. Sometimes you'll have tiles that are going to bridge gaps between 2 different spots. Let me see if I can actually pull this off. Yeah, there you go. So like if I had a tile right there, you notice that part of it is in level 2 over here, but part of it's in level 1. It totally depends on where you were at. So there I get to draw level 2 monsters. Here I get to draw level 1 monsters. And for that matter, there I get to draw level 1 monsters. So it has nothing to do with the tile that's on the board. So what I then do with I'm going to draw 5 level 1 monsters. Let me just see what I get here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And let's just see what I got, just out of curiosity. Let's see here. So I got, a wolf, and I got some pikes, a cool little trap, and then I got another wolf, and I got a goblin, and I got a scorpion. So these I then have in my hand now, and you have a maximum limit of 5, so you don't get to draw more. So like you have to get through these cards, you get more of them, and obviously you're going to want to get rid of your lower level ones to make sure that you can draw. As you get further into the dungeon, you can get bigger and better monsters. Now, that's really simple. I mean, and the thing is with that treasure chest, I should mention this. You do have these tiles. I really dig these, where you place those tiles over to show that the treasure chest has been looted, and so then people know that you don't get that. And for that matter, if I go through here and I get that event, if I got to walk through that event spot, they have these tiles here that you place on these event spots to show that that event has occurred too. So that just keeps track of the stuff that's been explored and stuff that hasn't been. All right, so monsters, and just even though I kind of went over it earlier, let's just talk about monsters and traps really quick. So if the other player, and I'm just going to use the hand of cards that I have, if the other player had placed a pike's trap, so here is the pike's trap. You can see it has a level, it has a 6 total to get past it. And traps are actually a pretty good idea of what you should be using against a dwarf. So you have these standees, and so then you can just find the correct standee, like so, and you place that trap down. So boom, it's right there. Haha, you want to, maybe I found some good treasure, or they think I'm going to want to go to that shop and sell. So they're like, okay, yeah, go for it, whatever, and you don't have to get to that trap. So then this card, when they play the card and place it down there, this card is placed to the side of the board. I'm not going to have it right, I'm not putting it to the side of the board right now, but it's placed to the side of the board just as a reminder, so it's there. So on my turn, if I try to walk through the spot with the trap, I stop in front of it, and then I have to test my dexterity against the trap. And so I have a dexterity of 2. This probably wouldn't be a really good roll, but let's just see what happens. So if I 2 plus this roll, and remember, I have to beat it, meaning that I have to roll a 5 or a 6 to defeat the trap. So let's see what I get here. Another 6! Yes! I'm keeping this die! So then I would defeat the trap, and so then we would remove it from the board, and then I would not suffer any ill effects from this trap. Now, if I had failed, what happens is, notice there's that -1 there, I am forced to push this in my improvement spot, and that actually then would reduce my dex to 1. Now, you can never go below 1 on any of your stats, so just keep that in mind. You can't ever become -5 strength or anything like that. So, and there are ways, there are items in the treasure deck that will allow you, amulets and stuff, that allow you to remove these negative effects. So that's something you can take care of. Now, monsters. Monsters are just as simple. So let's say we have this goblin that's in the way. So again, we're going to look for a standee of a goblin, and we're looking for a 7th strength goblin. And there we go. We have a standee of a 7th strength goblin, and then we're going to place that down right there. Same deal if I wanted to go through that. I'm going to roll. I'm going to look at my my strength versus the goblin. In this case, it's 7. I have to actually roll higher than that to beat it. So, so in this case, I need a 4 or better on this die. Now, if you have a weapon or something, you have to show it, and you have to say, hey, I'm going to be using this weapon in this combat, to, and if you have, the monsters don't roll a die, so you don't have to worry about anything random. So if you already have, if I had a sword that gave me +4 strength, I'd say I have an 8 total strength. I'm going to go ahead and just defeat the goblin because it has 8 versus 7. So let's see if I can roll 3 6s in a row. Let's go here. 1. All right, it's not on the board. Doesn't count, right? No, okay. Anyway, so if you get defeated by a monster, that's actually good. Show you. So there are these cards that are in the game that they actually describe everything. So there are certain things that happen. So it's if you lose to a rat, move 1 tile backwards. Wolf, take 2 tiles for 4 squares. So that's one of those things where you're getting more tiles in your hand that are going to go. But here, Goblin, discard valuables with a total cost of 3 coins. So if I had enough valuables to do so, you'd have to get rid of those. The Goblin steals them from you, and of course then it stays on the board. Now, I wanted to point out some of these other things, there are scorpions and spiders that are poisonous, and there's even more stuff like back here, and some really bad stuff like the dragon who takes all your money and treasure if it defeats you. You don't want to lose to the dragon, trust me. But like if you have poisonings, what happens with poisonings is that once again you are like are poisoned, and you're like Dex -1 and Speed -1, so you would adjust that on your board, and then you take these poison tokens, you take 3 of them, and you place them on your character. And they're actually, you can see these ones have speed and dex and whatever. So like speed and dex are -1. And so then you put 3 of each of those on your character. And each round that you play, you get to remove one of those. Like you remove one of each one. So like basically there's 3 rounds of poison that affect your character. And so you minus those down, and then you just put them back to where they are once you get rid of the poison. So like some of the monsters are going to have lingering effects. Yeah, and it's a cool thing, and I like the fact that like the way that the designer made the game is that you're always like can recognize exactly the minuses that you have and what have you as far as the process goes, you know. And again, when you play the monster on the board, you do take the thing, like just like the trap, and you put it to the side of the board. So if somebody defeats it, like if I had defeated the goblin, and notice how it gives a +1 strength, I could then place that right there, and I could say, okay, I got the goblin, I've used it as an improvement, and I'm going to get the +1 strength from that. Now, however, if I wanted to, I could take that goblin, I wanted the 3 gold that he's worth when I turn it in, I could place it there, and so after he was destroyed, you could go there, and I could turn that in, and I could take 3 coins from the bank and add those, because I would trade in the goblin. Remember, this doesn't go in a discard pile, it's just gone out of the game at that point. So it's a decision you have to make as far as that. Now, players will run into each other as they're moving around the board. You don't do any trades or anything when that happens. You don't interact with each other. I mean, the only thing you're ever really interacting with is with your player powers and with placing the traps and the monsters in their way to try to like slow them down and try to prevent them. As I said, there are 1 of 2 ways that people are going to win. If you either one person, or the game ends, I should say. The only way to win is have the most money at the end of the game. But either somebody claims the crystal in the middle, and that signifies the end of the game. Whoever gets the crystal in the middle gets a bonus of 15 points. Otherwise, if somebody manages to collect 30 coins, then you just total up the total number of the amount of treasure that you've accumulated as you've been in the dungeon, minus the points from all the tiles that you happen to have left over, and whoever has the most points will win for treasure. This is like one of these games that like it bridges that gap between like puzzling and like dungeon building, and a wonderful like kind of take that atmosphere as well. This is something that I thoroughly enjoyed with my gaming group. It hit all of our cylinders as far as a game that didn't take a lot of brain power to play, but still had a lot of fun in it as well. And this is definitely a game that my 7-year-old son was able to grasp really, really quickly, and so he was able to enjoy game night with the family, because sometimes we play games that are a little bit beyond him, and I really love the fact that my son was able to just grasp this one and play it immediately, and he had a blast. But there's a lot of other things I want to talk to you about Four Treasures, and I'll tell you all about that in my final thoughts. Oh, so there you go. That is Four Treasures. All right, so as I already said, like one of the best things about this game is that I was able to teach it to my 7-year-old son, and with very little coaching, he was able to grasp the game pretty quickly, and he had a lot of fun with it. You know, as far as like me, I have to remind him, it's like, oh, you can't put a monster there yet because nobody's close enough to it, or you can't put the doors don't line up, you can't put that one down. But other than that, I mean, he was able to get the fact that, okay, I want to get treasure. I want to keep you from getting treasure. I want to get in the middle and grab that gem. I mean, that was like, okay, he had the idea of the game, he had the grasp of the game, and he knew exactly what he wanted to do. And he had a lot of fun playing it. Even when he and I went head-to-head a couple times, he even won once, which really made him happy as well. And the thing is that I enjoy games like this, like Four Treasures, because it does kind of bridge the gap to those people that may or may not be part of your normal gaming group. Now, I'm not going to say
say this is technically like a gateway game. I don't really like that terminology at all. I mean, a gateway game can really be anything. If you've watched my channel before, the gateway game that got me into the whole like designer board game world was Arkham Horror, which is a super dense game I played for the first time ever, over a decade ago, and I was just hooked at that point. So gateway is like just a really bad adjective, if you will. But I do like games that have a simpler rules, that have a very straightforward goal, presented in a very fun and interesting way. I mean, like when I played this with other people, they're like, "Oh, these are like Tetris pieces." I was like, "Exactly." It's like you have like something like that connects to something else that they know of, right? That like it's like a comfortable seating place. It's just something that they understand, and so as they grasp and they start figuring out the nomenclature and like the icons, and there's thankfully very few icons and good player aids in this game, really good player aids, which I've always said, take the time as a designer and a graphic artist, come up with good player aids. Anything that you can keep somebody's nose out of a rule book, to stop like that slowdown of the fun of the game is great. But if there's enough meat on the bone for these games that'll appeal to people that aren't outside of your normal group, then the people that are in your normal group will still enjoy playing the game as well. And because of the fact that this is like a head-to-head type of situation, what do I want to do? Do I want to just kind of skirt around on the outside, maybe just collect some low-level monsters, kill those low-level monsters, collect gold slowly but surely that way? Do I want to race into the middle, and if I can get there before anybody else, and before anybody else has a chance to build up their gold, will I be able to pull that off? Just all kinds of aspects as far as those are concerned, that like there's different paths that you can take to try to pull off the win in these types of games, and I really enjoyed For Treasures for that. They could have, the designer could have gone with any kind of theme. It could have been pirates, it could have been dinosaurs, it could have been some sort of space theme or whatever. But I'm a sucker for fantasy type of games. I like these kinds of themes, and this is definitely something that I really enjoyed. I would like to see more player types. I mean, obviously they had like the standards, very iconic D&D based ideas, and Tolkien based rather. You got a ranger, you got a barbarian, you got a thief, you got a dwarf. But I would love to see more and more varied characters as well. Just to keep the game fresh and give things other different powers and abilities and whatever. Just the game is just exactly what it is. It is a game that you create. Oh, another thing too, as you create your own little paths and whatever to the dungeon, I like games that do that, where you're creating the board, where you actually can see you doing something and implementing something on the board and like seeing something, and then that's a situation there where like you can look back at your choices. You can look back at the things that you decided prior to the end of the game. You can actually, and even at the end of the game, you can say, "Oh, when I went this way and that way. Oh, remember when you put this tile right here and it really screwed me over." Stuff like that. That like keeps like that narrative of the story alive and makes the game a lot of fun, instead of just being a bunch of like action point worker placement type choices here, there, that thing. That like it just tends to like be maybe a fun game, but nothing really to remember after the game is over. So there you go. That is For Treasures. If you have any questions about the game, please ask away. I'll be happy to answer those as best as I can. As always, thank you very much for taking the time to watch this video. And until next time, I am the Untitled Viking, telling you, have an awesome day. Be the best possible person you possibly can be. And I guarantee you that the more happiness and love that you spit out in the universe, the more happiness and love you're going to get back in return. Don't forget to be awesome. I'll see you with the next video.